It's the heavyweight matchup of terrorism that no one thought we'd get. Yes, we are getting it because it's 2024 and the world's gone crazy. In one corner is a state sponsor of terrorism so prolific that they've given India absolute fits for their entire 70-plus year existence. It's Pakistan. Yes, the creators of the Muslim Brotherhood knockoff group, Jamaat-e-Islami, and dozens of terrorist groups in Kashmir, and an AstroTurf separatist movement, the Khalistani movement. Oh, they are very, very, very good terrorist supporters and funders. But in the other corner, we have the returning champion of terrorism funding globally, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and their crown jewel, the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is something that a lot of people might tend to think as a good thing. And I understand the appeal. Listen, Iran funds a lot of terrorism through the world, and Pakistan funds a lot of terrorism all over the world. If you could get them focused on each other, fighting each other instead of fighting us, that would be a good thing. And yes, there is a potential win here for the rest of the world, where you say, oh, if Iran and Pakistan, get into a war, then all the missiles that they're giving to Hezbollah and the Houthis will then have to resupply to themselves, and they won't have enough time to, fund Hamas and PIJ, and maybe there'll be some regional calm as they lose some influence over their proxies, like they did in the Trump administration when they didn't have the resources to fund global terrorism. That would be nice. Yeah, and if Pakistan can focus on, keeping Islamic radicals and the IRGC and the Iranians out of their country instead of exporting terrorism to, the rest of Southeast Asia, primarily India, and funding literal terrorist training camps for the Khalistanis in Canada. Yes, in Canada we do have terrorist training camps. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I mean like actual camps where they give Khalistanis AK-47 and shooting, and they go da 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 da, and they're like, this is how you infiltrate through Pakistan into India, kill Indian officials, and come back here. Like, we literally train people to commit terrorism here in our country. Whoop-de-doo. It would be nice if these countries had to stop putting resources into this and go after each other. So I understand the impulses to cheer for both teams to lose. And there is a possibility where this turns into a good thing. However, I do not trust the government of Pakistan to do the right thing. I do not trust the government of Iran to do the right thing. I see both of them as nefarious bad actors that will probably look to exploit this in a way that doesn't benefit anyone, least of all their people, and secondly, the rest of the civilians in the world. So I see billions of people not benefiting from this. Despite the sound of it maybe being good on first analysis. Okay. So the case to say, oh, maybe they'll just start killing each other. It's the Sunni Shiite thing, right? The Islamic Republic of Iran is Shiite ISIS, right? They want a caliphate, global caliphate, based on the Ayatollah Khomeini. It's going to be a Shiite thing. And if you listen, this is the funny thing about Islamophobia, right? Every Islamic radical is more Islamophobic than, the biggest Islamophobe you'll find, that you can name in the West. Because if they're Shiite radicals, they want to kill all the Sunnis. They're like, we'll kill the Jews and the Christians first, then we'll kill each other. And if it's a Sunni radical, well, they're going to kill all these Shiites because they're not real Muslims and they're blasphemers and kafirs, blah, 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 blah. So that's the general potential for chaos and friction between the two, right? You could say, okay, is there some proto-ISIS Sunni militants in Pakistan? Yes, that's what they do. That's literally what Pakistan is. Pakistan pretends to be a friend of the West. They have nukes, so they blackmail us and beg for loans, and we give them money, and they don't use that money to fight terrorism. They use that money to create more terrorism. Who's most responsible for the Taliban? Well, Pakistan, right? They would just go into Pakistan for arrest. Where was Osama bin Laden? Pakistan. Okay. Now, the fighting, though, is in, the Baloch province of both countries. And if you know anything about Pakistan, they're not friends of the Baloch people. Pakistan has been committing ethnic cleansing and general crimes against humanity in the Baloch region since its inception. This is where China is building its Belt Road Initiative, and, people being dragged off into, sometimes they disappear, sometimes they're tortured for a couple years and, dumped on the streets, mutilated, sometimes dead, sometimes not. We've had both countries have assassinated dissidents in Canada, here in Toronto. Karima Baloch was drowned by the ISI in a river. The Toronto police, these geniuses, said, that's a suicide. She strangled herself and then took her own dead body and threw it in a river. That's, and then for the IRGC, they did assassinate Mehdi Amin here in Toronto. Among some others, they also shot down Flight PS 752. This was the IRGC. Internally, we all know that story. We can go into another time. So you have two bad actors. But what can they potentially gain here? Is there an argument to say that Iran is acting in pure self-defense from the terrorism of Pakistan? Yeah, a lot of countries have reason to bomb Pakistan for terrorism. Now, can you say, wait, doesn't Pakistan have legitimate reasons to bomb Iran because of, fomenting terrorism and attacks on their territory? Yeah, so do a lot of countries. And it's kind of funny that, we've had these experts in Middle East. Oh, if you touch Iran and you go into Iran, the world is chaos. You can't push back against the IRGC or the Islamic Republic, or else chaos will ensue. The Pakistanis just did. They just let the Pakistanis bomb random civilians. Now, the other thing here is Pakistan right that Iran is a terrorist proxy terrorizing the people? Yes. Is Iran right that Pakistan is a terrorist proxy terrorizing the people? Yes. And both of them are acting like a bunch of terrorists, just randomly bombing civilians, calling them ISIS. Soon they'll be Zionist Jews. We're about a week or two away from both sides claiming that the other one is controlled by the Jews. This is where the conversation will go within a week. This take will probably age well. But in the Baloch province, Pakistan has been killing these people. So the problem is both Pakistan and Iran are claiming, hey, you're killing our people. That's our job. We kill and terrorize our people, not you. So it's not like Pakistan has any great love for the Baloch people. They've been horribly oppressing them for decades, forever, since the dawn of Pakistan. And Iran, as you see, they like to foment this internal separatism narrative. And by Pakistan, bombing Baloch people, I already see the narrative being laid here, where the Islamic Republic is already coming out and say that the Iranian civilians killed aren't really Iranians, they're Baloch. And this is them, being classically racist in a Western way. But it's not exactly what the real makeup of Iranian politics is. They're being Western-style racist, likely to internally foment a separatist movement and push up some Baloch separatism because, one, they're letting the Baloch people get bombed by a foreign power, and then they're taunting their dead children, saying they're not real Iranians. Who cares, right? They want the Baloch to feel more separate, because if they can push an internal separatist fear in Iran, they can then gain more domestic power. They've done this for years. Now, I can see the separatist thing backfiring on the Islamic Republic, because the separatist thing is often glommed onto Western leftism. It's the Western leftists who often will support these separatist movements, and the Islamists think they can manipulate the socialists, which they can be, but they also, like, socialists and Western leftists are crazy idiots. Like, they're not fully controllable. They are a bit of a rabid dog, so they're not that perfectly contained. You could see dire consequences or unintended consequences of their actions. I mean, both Pakistan and Iran here, blowing up in their face. But the reason why I am not celebrating this as touchdown, get him, I see a way for the regime to benefit off of this. And for all their failings, and sometimes they're crazy, they are very good at manipulating their population to stay in power. The way I would describe this is, like I always say, like, Iran's an actual nation and country with history and culture in the Middle East. So it's not like the other regions where it's just different tribes. Like, there is a cohesive national Iranian identity. And as I said, all these different peoples, ethnic minorities, Turks, Baloch, Azeri, Kurds, all of them have ruled Iran at some point over its thousands of years of history. So this history is seen by Iranian pro-democracy, either constitutional monarchists or republicans, as very important to the rebirth of the Iranian nation without the Islamic Republic. And to start to separate it and pull it into Balkanization is really going to undermine any legitimate free Iran movement. The best example I can give for sort of, why don't we just break Iran into all these different places and cut off the Azerbaijan and cut off a Kurdish region and cut off a Baloch region and cut off of this region. It might sound like a way to, throw Iran into chaos and overthrow the regime, but it's not going to work. It's kind of like when Jews hear why don't you just move Israel to Europe? Or why don't you just have all the Jews move to Antarctica? Or why don't you make Israel in America? It's like, no, because Israel is there. Like, it's an ignorant thing to say. Like, no Jew is going to be like, oh, well, the Bible says Jerusalem. Maybe Jerusalem means Madagascar. Like, it's not going to happen, right? Just the same way you're not going to win hearts and minds and heads or anything in the Iranian community if you're just, like, backing a Balochi separatist movement. So I see it as sort of potentially a trap the regime could use to bait a lot of, new Iranian allies. Right? There's a lot of people who've come to the side of the Iranian people over the last few years, but don't really understand the intricacies of Iranian politics. I see this as a giant landmine potentially to step on. And you already see the regime. They're like, these aren't really people. They're just human beings. We like killing people. We like to kill people. We listen. These Balochi Iranians, we wanted to kill them, and we will kill them eventually. We're very mad at Pakistan for killing them first. This is essentially the complaint. So, is there a chance that, listen, if Pakistan starts hitting IRGC targets inside Iran, and Iran starts hitting terrorist training camps inside Pakistan, you know what? Step back, watch it happen. I don't see that happening. And for the love of God, please, Joe Biden, Americans, the West, do not throw hundreds of millions or billions of dollars at Pakistan to kill random Iranian civilians. Please do not do that. That is going to blow up in your face. Just don't do it. One, the money won't even go to, most of it won't even go to killing the Iranian civilians. It will go to more terrorist training camps, which will probably be used to kill Indians and some Westerners and foment general discord on our streets. That's what Pakistan uses their money for. So it won't even go to your desired intended purpose of doing that, but it will be played as if it is doing that, and it will further isolate the pro-democracy, anti-regime movement inside Iran from the rest of the world. So if you want both these countries to stop the terrorist shenanigans, like I do, I suggest sit back and watch this one. Just watch, and don't start cheering, dead civilians, because that seems to be their plan, right? Oh, these people, and Palestinians, listen up. These are your two great allies, Pakistan and Iran. They love you so much. Do you really think they care about your lives, Palestinians? They don't care about their own civilians, right? They don't care about their own people. And they're just blowing up random people in the other countries that are allegedly your supporters. You really think these guys have your back? I don't. So, everyone, yes, it is kind of funny that the world's number 2 and number 1 state sponsors of terrorism are fighting each other right now. There is reason they're fighting each other because, some of them are crazy Islamic fundamentalists and they're Sunni and Shiite, so they're going to try and kill each other eventually. How will this go? I don't know. I am excited for the phase where both sides start blaming the Jews, and then we see how both sides take that. That's going to be entertaining. Other than that, Pakistan, if you want to do me a favor and, shoot Raisi or Khomeini in the face, that would be appreciated by everyone. Same thing with the IRGC. If you want to just take out all these Pakistani terrorist training camps and generals funding terrorism that are going to eventually kill you, because right, remember, when you kill all the Jews and then kill everyone in the West, you're going to start killing each other after that, right? You know this, right? Sunni, Shiite, you're both ISIS. So, hey, maybe, do something about that, because the West isn't going to save you because we're up our own asses and we can't figure out what's going on. So maybe you guys can, fight some radical Islam for once.